All right, welcome to today's class, The Unexpected Extras, with me, your one-legged instructor. So, how many agents are there in the Richmond Association of Realtors?
Over 7,000.
I would guess about 6,000, 7.
Yeah, somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000. Let's just go ahead and settle up with that. And that's more. I think the majority of my 28-year career, we could say somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000, but there's more now than ever. Okay. So what does that mean to you? What does that mean to us?
More competition.
More competition, right? I mean, there's only so many homes. I guess there's a few more homes every year in Richmond, but there's only so many homes. There's only so many buyers, and it's just a matter of how many are you going to get. And now we know there's more competition. So what as a real estate agent, what do we sell? What do you sell? You should know it. I mean, you have a license, so what do you sell?
Houses, real estate.
Okay,
So,
okay. That's a common answer. But really, what do you sell?
Ourselves and our services.
You sell yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because you're an independent contractor. You work for Hometown Realty. You're a member of the RAR. You're a member of the what is the next thing? The VAR, and then the NAR, and then the Earth AR, or whatever they have. But you're really an independent contractor. So you're selling yourself. If you can't get your foot in the door, then you're never going to sell a house or land or condominium or whatever it is you might do. So then the question you got to ask is, why would anybody choose me versus the other 6,999 agents in the marketplace? You know, why would they choose you? So what are reasons that people choose a particular agent? What are some of the reasons that people choose agents?
knowledge.
Recommendation.
Yeah, a recommendation from a friend or coworker. What else?
Knowledge of the business.
Yeah, but how do they know before? That maybe is once there's a recommendation, maybe they choose you because they realize you're knowledgeable and professional, whatever. That's good. How else do people find their agent?
Through friends.
And they can find it by chance. They could find it through friends, family, at an open house, online, advertising. You know, some way they tend to just find you. But then why do they want to use you, and why would they want to continue to use you? Because we know that if you're going to be in this business, our referrals, no matter really who you are, with very few exceptions, is repeat business and referrals. Is that something that you would like to have as an element of your business?
Oh, yeah.
Most people would. I mean, some people might say, well, I'm going to focus, I do a lot of new construction, but you never would want to, I don't think anybody would say, I never want to, once I've sold you, I never want to deal with you again. Right?
I had a few of those, though.
Yeah, you may have had some people that you say, yeah, I'd prefer never to deal with you or any of your friends again. But in most cases, we want the business. There's, like if you're an insurance agent, they call that residual income, because once I write your policy on your car, well, I get paid that day. When do I get paid again? When it renews. The next year, get it again. What about the next year? Get it again. If I sell you a house, when do I get paid?
When it closes.
When it closes. When do I get paid again?
Whenever you sell another one.
Right, but the residual, you can make it almost a residual business if I sell Jake a house, and then I can get his sister to buy a house from me next year, and then he decides to buy an investment property the year after that, and then his buddy from college buys one the next year after that, then that can be a residual income, which is elusive in this business, but possible if you do it right. So then why would people want to continue to do business with you?
Sometimes it's a personality affinity. They're just comfortable with you, and you're comfortable with them.
Yeah, they've had a good experience. They like you. They respect you.
Trust you.
They trust you. You're available to them. You haven't forgotten about them. Brian Buffini would say, he talks about communicating care. They know that you care. Which in the business world, is that always the case?
No.
No. And, you know, like, so when you send in your taxes to the government, isn't it nice when they send you like a thank you note and a country ham saying, we really appreciate, you know, you paid whatever this year. We just, you know, Camilla and I just really appreciate your loyalty to the United States. Isn't that nice? You ever get that? You ever get those?
Still waiting.
You know, when the plumber comes over and fixes the toilet and the sink and puts in a new dishwasher, you know, isn't it nice that they come by every Thanksgiving with an apple pie for you? Does that happen? No. But what happened? Does anything like that ever happen from people you do business with?
Very rare.
But what happens when it does?
Feels good.
It feels good, but then
And you
what else?
remember them.
You remember them. So would being remembered be important to what we're trying to do to perpetuate our business and get that residual income going in this business? And the other thing is, isn't it the right thing to do? You know, I mean, this company was built on, you know, doing the right thing and treat people the way you would want to be treated. That's the motto. That was the motto before I even got here. I didn't come up with that. That's something Mike and his mom came up with. You know, so it's not only is it good for you, but it's just the right thing to do. And so that's where we talk about the unexpected extras. So if you just do the expected stuff, like what's the expected stuff in our business?
Showing houses.
Yeah.
CMA.
So if Pam takes a client out and she uses the lockbox and opens the door, is that people going to say, you should have seen Pam. She picked that lockbox up and she got her phone and she punched in the thing and bam, it came out. It was awesome. Pam's the best. Is that an unexpected extra?
No.
No.
What are the other expected things in this business?
Pricing a home.
Write the contract.
Yeah, pricing a home. I mean, pretty much just the basic duties. Writing a contract, pricing the house, sticking the sign in the yard, taking the sign out, putting them in the car and driving them around, answering some questions, you know, but just the basic stuff. And you have to do that. I mean, if you don't do that, then you really can't get to any of the extras. But that's like just the standard. So if you're average, Jake's heard me say this a bunch of times, what happens if you're average in this business, what happens to you?
You sell 2 houses a year.
And how long are you in the game?
None.
In fact, like 18 months. They say like within 18 months, 80% of the new licensees are gone. So you don't want to be that. Russell, when did you get your license?
Last month.
Last month. So you got 17 months
That's right.
before you need to think of something else to do. If you're average. So you don't want that. So then how do you do that? How do you get above and beyond? Well, there's a lot of ways. Well, one of them is with the unexpected extras. And I'm glad Pam's here because Pam is, you know, one of the nicest people that you'd ever meet. And so if you live your life just normally, before real estate or anything else, I mean, Pam was always the kind of person that's just going to try to do everything she can to get to know people and to try to please people and to just be there for people. And, you know, if you can sort of think of that and then carry that into the business side of it, then it not only makes it better for you, like we said, not only makes it the right thing, but I think it probably makes it more fun as well. Brian Buffini talks about a transactional business, which is sort of doing things just the meeting the standard, and then he talks about a relational business where it's much more personal and getting to know you. And certainly, I mean, I guess it would be hard to get but so personal if you were selling data storage at a off-site thing. I mean, you know, how personal could that be? Maybe it could be. But in this, where we're talking about raising your children and or retiring or, you know, just living and whatever in a home, it's a personal business. So it lends itself for these things to really be a part of it. Because many companies have tried to automate what we do, and it still winds up coming back to being a people business, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed a little bit, but really, it's still, we're a big part of it, and hopefully that'll, you know, at least till I retire, let's hope that that's the case, okay? So unexpected extras. What are some things that you've heard about? Well, before we even talk about real estate, let's go out to just our world. What are some things that you've seen from people that you've done business with? What are some things that have been unexpected extras that have caught your attention?
Handwritten note,
From who?
lender,
From a mortgage person. So they're sort of our cousins because they're in this business, but
right?
yeah. So how many handwritten notes do you get on an average day?
0.
Yeah, I tell you, it was remarkable. Most of you know what's going on in my life here lately. How many handwritten notes we received? Over 500.
Wow.
You know, unbelievable. But that happened at a time that, you know, you maybe expected at that time. And one of the points that you need to think about with the title of this class is the unexpected extras. Because there's extras that could be sort of expected, but then the unexpected ones are what really makes a difference. Okay? So sometimes in a regular business world or whatever, a note from somebody you've done business with, a handwritten note, is truly unexpected and is an extra and shows that they care and they value you and they value your business. So that's a good one.
Now, I had one last week, and what made me think of it is it's one of the expected things, but he did something unexpected.
Okay.
We're redoing our kitchen, and I went to a company with my wife and watched her pick out a slab for the new granite counter.
Okay. Nice.
And tried to not.
Where did you go to do that? I remember you took.
Absolute Stone.
Okay,
yeah,
Absolute Stone,
and
yeah.
they were great there.
Yeah.
And after all looking, we found one, and we both liked it. The guy put our name on it, and of course, that's how that all works. But it was raining that day, so we went back a couple of days later. And what the guy had done is decided to talk us out of that slab. He already had a sale, and found 2 more slabs and got them ready for us to look at. What he did is he told us the truth. He could have not said anything. I didn't see the imperfection in that stone, but he did, and he in effect set aside the sale he had already made in order to make sure that we were happy with what we bought from his company. And that feels like one of those kinds of things
Yeah.
to me.
Well, because it's unusual, it's unexpected in a case where the guy's got the sale. You picked it out. He didn't pick it
Yeah.
out. You picked it out. And so what is it? Is it when you put others above yourself, is that called being altruistic? Is that the right word? Is that what that means? We'll just say it is.
Well,
It's a nice word. So, you know, that is an unexpected extra. And unfortunately, in today's society, that is an unexpected extra. So, you know, that's the kind of guy that if Pam asked you, she's gonna redo her kitchen, she says, John, who should I go to get some granite countertops?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that. I would not only have I already given his name and card to several people, but he's at the top of my list from now on.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody is in a situation where they prove themselves to be honest when they, and really looking out for your best interest when they really didn't need to.
Right.
So that's a great example. That's a great example. So one of the things I did in preparation for this, although this whole idea just really came to my mind yesterday morning. One of the things I did in preparation for this was talk to some people that are in other businesses about what they do. And I do some investing and financial work with a company called Equity Concepts. They're located right out here, sort of 3 Chopped and Glenside. Gaskins, excuse me, 3 Chopped Gaskins. And so I remember the second time I went there. When I got there, I sat down and they brought me a Diet Coke. And I thought about that. I'm like, anybody who knows me knows I love Diet Coke. But they didn't really know me. But when I went there the first time, they had asked me what I liked. So I said Diet Coke, so they had obviously taken note of that and put that down. So over the years, I've developed a relationship with these guys, and some of you may know that because I've had them come here and speak to us before. There's two twin brothers that I work with a lot there, David and William Saunders. And they're neat guys. I met them at open house at Cedar Lee when I was working at the model there many years ago. And David's job is sort of a client relations manager. He doesn't sell mutual funds or equities or whatever else. He's just there to build the relationships with the clients, which is amazing. How many, you think about as business has become lean and mean, how many people like that still exist in today's world? And yet, just like our business, how many places could you go invest money today in Richmond?
Wow.
Thousands. And even online, you can go to TD Ameritrade or whatever else. The options are incredible. So I'm sure at some point, the leadership over there, this guy named Michael Thaler is one of the big leaders. I'm sure he's like, how do we separate ourselves from the pack? And that's the unexpected extras. And so I told him, I said, look, I've watched what you do and I sort of have an idea of what's going on, but take me behind the curtain and tell me about it. So they have a pretty sophisticated client management database that they use. And some of the things, he says, we just try to listen. We try to listen and then we try to remember. And is that unique in today's world? I mean, you can't hardly meet somebody and they've forgotten your name, much less what you like to drink or whatever else. So I said, what are some of the things that you guys are keying on when you're doing, and when do you start doing it? They say from the time we get a referral. So for instance, if I was telling them about John, I was going to refer them to John, and I start telling them about John, they're picking up information and recording this information. Children, job, how long on the job, what do they do on the job, what are their areas of expertise within that job, pets, charities, health. For instance, he was reading me my record, and they know more about it. Probably I don't have a pediatrician, a physician doesn't have as good a record as what they have, and we'll get to the point of this. Vacation spots. So anytime they hear about you going on vacation, they write it down. Hobbies, favorite restaurants, favorite foods, beverages, life circumstances. So what's happened, did your parents pass away or whatever? I was trying to get all that kind of stuff. Your kid get married, whatever else. Religious preferences, and on and on and on. But you sort of see what we're doing here. Especially as your business grows, it's hard to keep all that in your head. So there's nothing wrong. It's not fake if you take some notes along the way. And I think some people maybe are a little sensitive to that. They're like, well, I want to be sincere. Well, you're still sincere if you pull up the record, and I've got Jake's record, and I find a little bit about him, and then I use that to build the relationship. So he gave me an example. I said, so what do you do with it? We talked about the Diet Coke thing, and that's good. And he says, we try to deliver the care at times when you wouldn't expect it. So he says, I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, we do send out like Christmas cards. Okay, but why would Christmas cards not be an unexpected extra?
Because a lot of people send out Christmas cards.
Right, a lot of people send out Christmas cards. So you're going to just be in the mix. I mean, how many Christmas cards you get at home? You get a big stack, right? So you're just in the mix with that. But what about wedding anniversary card? How many wedding anniversary cards do you get? Not that many.
From 5 or 6 people, yeah.
Maybe. And but that tells you somebody's paying attention.
Yeah. Well, they want a card back when theirs comes around.
Maybe so. They gave me an example of a gentleman that is actually a past client of mine and is a client of theirs, who his wife passed away this past year. And they had a great relationship with this guy over many, many years. And And so the family, the husband and wife have a place at the river, and they loved being there together, and the family and everything like that. And so they got, not like a grave marker, but like a stone, like it's a 40-pound thing, he described it, and they have like a biblical passage that they loved. And so they referenced the, whatever it was, passage, and they had her name on it, and then like a picture of, I forget what it was, but something she really loved. And he's like, I'm looking at it right now. We're taking it this weekend. We're going down there and giving it to him this weekend. She passed maybe 6 months ago. So rather than doing that kind of, it would have been hard to make that thing up and give it to him at the funeral, obviously, because it takes a little while to do it. But they want to sort of let the dust settle and whatever else, and do something very meaningful and personal with this person that they would appreciate. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and again, they're not just doing it just to get business from this gentleman. They're doing it to thank him and to show him that they care. And if they get more business out of it, then that's great. And maybe if they don't, well, that's no big deal either. But that's truly an unexpected extra. So I thought you'd think that was good.
You mentioned a couple of things that reminded me of something, if you don't mind.
Please.
You mentioned, I forget the phrase you used, but it was in a sense, essentially knowing what is going on in your life.
Yeah.
And it reminded me that, well, social media is a huge empty vacuum that we throw our time into a lot of the times. I know 2 agents, and you just kind of solidified this in my mind for me now, who get a lot of business from their social media, but the way they do it is what you're talking about. They watch the people they know and the people they've come in contact with, and they interact with them, and then when events happen, they respond to them.
Right.
Because when it comes down to it, the reason we get to sell somebody a house is because something changed in their life.
That's right.
And social media is a great way to stay on top of that instead of just.
Yeah, so the unexpected extra is the agent is reaching out to these people, commenting and caring and inquiring about what's going on in their world, versus me saying, I'm the greatest agent in the world. I sold 16 houses last week. I got this award. I'm the greatest. I mean, I'm not saying there's never a place for that, maybe not to that extreme, but that's the unexpected extra is, wait a minute, now this person, why would they care that we went to Venezuela or whatever the heck it might have been, you know? And that's the unexpected extra there. And that's it's interesting you brought that up, John, because I asked myself, well, so how do you stay aware of it? And they obviously try to, like Buffini talks about calls, notes, pop-bys, by having a regular communication with the clients, but he says they troll social media a lot, and troll is a bad word. I mean, I don't mean, you know, but that's just,
It's a fishing term, yeah.
yeah, it's just a way that it's a way they can keep up with things. So that's what they do. And so, you know, that they do a great job of communicating with the clients in general, but this is a way, you know, something you may have a conversation, John and I may have a conversation, but he didn't bring up the fact that his uncle passed away last week, and then he, you know, if I go to social media, maybe his obituary was on the thing, and that's obviously something that means something to me, put it on there, and maybe I'll do something. Yeah, I'm not saying I have to get a fancy rock and bring it to every person that passes away, but maybe a sympathy card, maybe just another phone call or whatever else, you know. That's the unexpected extra. So I said, well, how do you measure it? What is a sort of a standard of how you know what to do? You know, and some of us have bigger budgets than others, and obviously some people that are in our database or in our world, we may want to do more for them than others. And he said, we just sort of keep it simple. And I said, basically, it's what would you do for a friend? You know, and I thought that was, you know, if you look at it like that, because you don't have to become friends with all of your clients, but I think that's a good standard to say. So if I knew that my buddies had done something, would I comment about that, or would I not do anything about that? You know, so that I thought that was good. That was a nice standard to have in there. He talked about some other things, and he recommended a book that I have not read called Giftology. So maybe if you're interested in this kind of thing, it would be good. But he was talking about trying to give them, again, he used the word unusual, but again, I just think it's stuff that is just not expected. So, talked about, like with wedding anniversary. He said the last time he had somebody had a wedding anniversary, he went to Whole Foods and bought some steaks because he knew people love to grill, and he bought a nice bottle of wine, and he bought some baked potatoes, and he bought some vegetables, and he bought a cooler, not like a 7-Eleven fraternity style styrofoam job, but not a Yeti either, but a nice cooler. And he got a nice card, and he took it and he put it on their doorstep, and just said, hey, hope you guys enjoy your. And he didn't do this on like the 17th. It's on the big anniversaries, So like hope this is 25th anniversary, big time for you guys. Really respect your marriage and what you guys been able to do, and just thought this would be something you guys could enjoy. And he said the people just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. So that was a pretty cool. Let's see if there's another. Oh, so we had 2 weddings in our family. Both my son Clayton and my daughter Caroline got married this summer, and so we're at the house and phone rings, and David and his brother are like, hey, we want to come over, and could we find a time when Clayton and Savannah and Daniel and Caroline will be home? So we did that, and they came over a couple days later, and they had a sketch made of both of the wedding venues. So my daughter was married at Main Street Station, and they had a nice sketch made, and said like Daniel and Caroline, whatever the date was, May the 14th. I should remember that. And then Savannah and Clayton got married at Savannah's family farm, and they had a picture of the house and the same thing there. I mean, that was cool that they did it. I mean, our kids aren't even their clients, and they did it for our kids. So there's some examples of that.
Tommy Sabini used to do something. I don't know if he still does. Do you remember way back? His wife is a bit of an artist, and every time he sold somebody a house, she would do a
sketch
pencil drawing of it, and that would be the closing.
Yeah.
I thought that was incredible.
Yep, especially if your wife is the artist, you don't have to pay her.
Yeah, that's right.
So, there's something I wrote, I can't read my own notes. He also talked about stuff that is high quality and repeatable, but it's on the client's time frame. And so he gave an example. There's a company called Spoonful of Comfort, and it's like a soup kind of thing. And rather than when what we've been going through, people brought a ton of food, and we went up throwing away a ton of food because you can't eat. If somebody brings you a lasagna, and somebody else brings you a pizza, and somebody else brings you spaghetti, and somebody else brings you beef stroganoff, you can't eat all that in one day. I mean, I tried, but you can't get it all in. And you hate to throw all that away. Well, what they do a lot of times is bring this kit. It's like a soup thing, and you can do it on your time. Like if you don't want to do it tonight, it's not perishable, and it's good, but it's and it's high quality, whatever else, but not something you have to do right away. So that was something too there. So the guy that was here before is in the beer business, right? And he used the example of the fact that when he represented Miller and Coors and Corona and whatever brands that he had, obviously he would tell you that they're superior and whatever else. But what it really boils down to is a Miller Lite and a Bud Light. People may have personal preferences or whatever, but they're really not that different, right? So what do they have? What differentiated Loveland Distributing from the competitor, which is Brown Distributing in this market? And he said we try to differentiate ourselves with our service, getting to know our people, and really trying to give them some unexpected extras and just provide better service. And even within their company, he said, our employees are really what makes our company run. So he sort of felt like a lot of his clients were his employees, because he wanted to treat them the best so that they would, stay there and be motivated to do a good job for their company, but for the clients, so that the whole thing would perpetuate. And one example he gave, he said, they had a whole crew of people that would just go out to their on-premise sales and clean beer lines. And I know how valuable that is, because at one point I had a kegerator, right? So can you imagine how gross the beer line gets if you don't clean that thing, I can tell you, it's nasty, right? So you ever go to like a bar and you get a draft beer and it just doesn't taste right? Whatever you do, don't go look at the line, because it's gonna be black scuzz in the line. Because beer is like a great media for stuff to grow in, you know? So what Loveland would do is they had a staff, they would just go and they go to Marty's and they, you know, when it's not beer drinking time, which I guess for some people it's always beer drinking time, but they unhook everything and they put the chemicals in there and they scrub it down and then they hook it back up. They're not getting paid to do that, but what does the restaurateur think of that? It's huge, because now he's a quality product, you know, and they're just looking out for him. Because if the beer's good and cold and everything's tuned up right and they adjust, you know, sometimes it's like it's really foamy and you know you get a crappy beer, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not, whatever. They're adjusting all that stuff periodically. If they're coming in there once every, say, 45, 60 days, versus the other company that's, you know, hell with you. And that's just one example of some of the unexpected extras. So let's bring it down into the real estate world now and talk about some things that we do. And I polled a couple of our agents, and I'll just read you sort of what they said, and then I can tell you some stories too. So I asked Adrian, I said, what are some of the unexpected extras that you've done for some clients? So he just shot this back. So he said, I use my own drone to take videos around certain properties that they were interested in, so they could get a better idea of the surroundings for out-of-town clients. Hauled away trash from shed. I remember this particular incident. I mean, the shed is half as big as this room, and you couldn't have put this piece of paper in there. There was so much crap in there, and it was all trash. And we got all that crap out of there because it wasn't going to close until then. Moved a giant pile of dirt. I was in on that too. Painted a 2-story stairwell. I was in on that one. Painted a door. Staged a home with my own furniture. Yeah, I mean, the house, his wife was pissed. Like, she was out of town and she got home and there's like, some of the stuff was missing from the house. She's like, Adrian, where's the sofa? He's like, we really needed that at the house. But, you know, that's I'm sure the people were like, man, you don't need to do that. And he's still married, so that's good. Numerous times cut grass and mulched. Hired a contractor to fix inspection items on my own dime. Here's a good one, parentheses, safely removed lead paint chips from the mulch after it was scraped off the side of the house. That means putting more mulch on top of it. Had buyers drive my car to the airport as I wrote the offer in the back seat. So just to get it done. Gotten quotes for paint, kitchens, flooring, carpentry, landscaping, fences, underground fences, internet service, solar panels, dock, and the list goes on. So you can see that's just not doing it. That's just not saying, well, gee, man, it's up to you. That's grabbing the bull by the horns and done. This is from Blakely Smith. Unexpected extra for the seller. Client was tight on funds. One of the inspection items was to have the gutters cleaned. Instead of paying someone to do it, I just showed up with the ladder and did it myself. And then he says, not advising others to do that, but I have a ladder and it was a small rancher, so I just did it. Okay, so that's good. And this is Shannon Haskett, just a longer one. So I've called an emergency landscaper or cleaner, but recently I had a closing that got pushed out, and then we were almost to closing date, and the lender realized we absolutely had to close 4 days earlier than planned because the buyer is pregnant and got taken out of work. So if we don't close early, the entire transaction will implode, because then technically the buyer doesn't have employment. Let's see here. So my sellers are doing everything possible. We have 4 hours left for the walkthrough. My seller breaks her finger. I stopped what I'm doing, take my truck, meet her husband, finish getting everything out of the house for the walkthrough and the cleaning, and it got closed. Different time, I had a new mom that was having to move because of her husband's job transfer. They had this baby room chandelier that she had put together by hand. I told her to remove it for the listing. She said not to worry about it and just sell the house. She has her baby a month early and is in full-blown postpartum when it's time to actually move. She is just totally distraught over the chandelier. The new owner's wife is 7 months pregnant and also won't budge. I have the owner order another chandelier for me to put together by hand, and she pays to have the new one reinstalled. In both cases, things didn't go to plan, but it's definitely the realtor code to be problem solvers. It's a couple hours of my time, but irreplaceable for my clients. So you know, pretty cool stories. And I remember my grandfather lived in Chamberlain Farms, and he referred me to one of an elderly woman that he knew in the neighborhood who was selling her house. And I went over there, stopped in and checked on her. It was in August. It was 100 and some degrees. And I said, ma'am, how's everything going? She's like, I'm just so tired. She goes, I think I've got everything, but there's an attic over the carport, and I think there's just a few items in there, and I just don't know how I'm gonna get those out. I said, I got you covered. So I went home and got my pickup truck, came out there and get the few items. And I went up in the attic, and I mean, I opened the door and stuff fell down when I opened the door. And I climbed up there, and there was, again, jammed with stuff. There were, a lot of it was paper bags with pine cones in the paper bags. So well, this won't be bad, at least they're not heavy, right? So I grabbed the first bag, and like some kind of scientific phenomenon, the entire thing just disintegrates right there. So I got paper flakes and pine cone stuff, and it's like some kind of dust. And now I'm in a full lather because it's 1,006 degrees in the thing. So it took me 3.5 loads of stuff in my pickup truck to get it empty, and I looked like a Oompa Loompa. I was orange by the time I finished it, but I got it done. And that lady referred me to 2 of her friends because she knew, she was so thankful for me, doing that. So a lot of times it's just, just comes down to those unexpected extras. So we can tell some stories as we go, but I made a list of some things that just, that would sort of be considered, and some of these are more drastic than others, but unexpected extras, and these are not in any particular order, just how they came to me. Attend the closing. A lot of agents don't attend closing. I can't say I've been to every closing, but it's nice to at least show your face at that. That's the conclusion of a deal. I think sometimes it's an unexpected extra for us to do it, but it's almost maybe expected from the client that you do it. So I would advise that. Now, how many of you set up clients on through Matrix with the automated search, through portal and all that kind of stuff? And that's a great thing. So the unexpected, the standard would be what? How would you run that? Just you say, call me if you see anything good. Give me a call. We'll go look at it. Perfect. What's the unexpected extra way to do that?
Go in every 2 or 3 weeks and change up the message so that it's personalized and mention something about them that you know.
Okay, that's good.
So that you're showing them that you know who they are.
And when you see, rather than just let them look at it, when the notification is given and a house looks like it'd be something that they would be interested in, so you just let them find it and call you, or
Send to them. Hey,
you call them. You give them a heads up, whether you email them, follow up a phone call, or whatever you do. You be proactive and do it that way. The next one I wrote down, and this goes back to my friend from Equity Concepts. I said, remember the names of their children and their pets and themselves. I mean, I know plenty of times when I have not really been all that up on the names of, maybe I deal with one of them and I don't deal with the spouse and I don't even know their name, but that's just not again, that's really not even for us. You're dealing with a lot of people, maybe you how am I supposed to remember everybody's name? How am I supposed to remember that they have a dog? How am I supposed to remember this? But to them, they expect that. Know what hobbies are, favorite restaurants. That's pretty normal. So then I wrote down closing gifts. I think closing gift could be considered maybe an expected extra, but how do you differentiate what makes a good closing gift and what makes one that is maybe the unexpected extra kind of closing gift?
With the pencil drawings, I've given several of those, especially, I've even given it of a house that I sold and they've moved somewhere else, but like an older client that they're going into assisted living, but they had really good memories in the
That's
house.
nice.
That
Yeah. So something that is relevant to them. I mean, obviously, if Jake closes on a new house and I give him a pair of hockey skates, he probably like that because he plays hockey.
Yeah.
Right?
Heck yeah.
If Pam closes on a house, I give her a pair of hockey skates. She's like, "What the hell? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen." But I think we sometimes do that. We try to put the square peg in the round hole. Well, here's a freaking gift card to, Cheesecake Factory. Well, not everybody likes Cheesecake Factory. How much harder would it have been? At least if you're going to go to the gift card to the restaurant, at least find out what restaurant is their favorite or one of their favorites and match it up, right?
What about doing something instead of just giving something, like
Yes.
showing up the day the moving van is at the house with a couple of pizzas
Right.
and you're in your jeans and you start helping pull things out of boxes and put them where they tell you to.
Yeah, and then you intentionally drop one so they say, well, "Get the hell out of here." Yeah, let me see what number that was I had here. 6, show up with pizza on moving day.
Wow.
7, physically help with moving.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do that, but there's just things like that. That would be an unexpected.
Yeah.
The most common thing you hear about, when you talk about, well, do you have a realtor? Well, we had one, but I haven't heard from him since we wrote the contract on our house, 10 years ago. So those things are different. So relevant, things that are relevant and meaningful, and then you could go back to David Saunders' rule. If you're wondering what that is, well, what would I do for a friend?
I know one guy, because I'm from New Jersey, so this wouldn't count here because we don't get enough snow. But New Jersey has more adult 55 and older communities than anywhere except Florida.
Uh-huh.
And I know a couple of agents who specialized in those communities. And on a day when we got 6 inches of snow, they'd hop in the car and go to their regular clients and
Help
show
them out.
the path from the driveway to the front door of the house.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I mean that is definitely an unexpected extra. It's relevant to these people because they're not, in many cases, if they're not capable of doing this, they certainly are getting close to not being capable of doing it. They certainly don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
But again, that's just thinking it through, and you do that for your grandparents, right? I mean, so that's a good thing. I think with closing gifts, time can be a constraint on this kind of thing, but one of the smartest things that I did early in my career is I would throw a housewarming party. Whenever we sold a house, Mike and I bought a pig cooker. In fact, we bought 2 of them. And we would, I'd take it over there and I'd get some pork butts and throw them on the grill, and I'd ask them to invite all their friends. In fact, I'd ask them to give me the names, and I'd send out the invitations so that then I could capture all the names. And then we'd have however many, 20, 30, 40, 50 people over in the backyard, and I would just provide the barbecue, and then they would get whatever kind of drinks they wanted to do. And so it really didn't cost me, even today. I mean, pork butts are cheap. It'd just be time. And I can't tell you how many houses I sold because of that. I mean, so many people are like, what's your catering company? Can I get your card? I'm like, no, I'm not the caterer, I'm the realtor. And they're like dumbfounded. That is truly an unexpected extra. Rather than giving a gift card to dinner, what could be better than that? Take them to dinner. Or even take them dinner. So you just got to sort of think it through on some things like that. Again, a closing gift a standard closing gift is better than nothing at all. But I would say, one that if you're going to do it, you might as well, why not make it impactful and make it special, make them think and make them understand that you do care. All right, moving right down the list here. All right, so the next one was show up with a pizza. Then we'll give that one to John.
Thank you.
Physically help with staging. Well, that was Adrian's thing, right? So Suzanne Super's really good at that. So we hire a stager. Her name is Laura Rogers, and she goes to all the listings that we have, and she stages. And we try to be there too to help move stuff around and just make the house look as nice as possible. We've all gathered stuff. There's a lamp. It's funny if you look at all of our videos that we do. There's a lamp. In every one of Suzanne's listings, she puts this lamp in there. It's the lucky lamp. And she's superstitious about it, and it's funny. The sellers think that's funny, but it's memorable, So we went on one yesterday, And we always do a video, like I'll narrate the video, it's like a walkthrough video. And the people lived in Ash Creek, same neighborhood where I used to live and where Suzanne lives now. And so she had told them that I had the knee surgery and whatever else, and they weren't expecting me to be there yesterday for the video. And then I crutched it on up in there, and we'd shoot a scene, and I'd stand, like, try to balance myself, and then they'd give me the crutches, and we'd go to the next thing and move on. So that was an unexpected extra. And then they were saying, well, I was saying, well, so the house goes on the market on Thursday, and we're doing the open houses, and so what are y'all's plans for the weekend? They're like, well, we're thinking about going to Charlottesville, but we're having trouble because we need a place that's got an indoor pool because our kids, what are we gonna do with our kids for 2 days in Charlottesville this time of year? And I said, well, why don't y'all use our wintergreen place? Now, granted, maybe you don't have a condominium wintergreen, but I did. Nobody's gonna be there that weekend. And I'm like, it's all you. And I mean, they couldn't believe it. And Suzanne was competing with 6 other agents for this listing, and we got it. So what do you think they think now? How about tomorrow? What's today? How about Friday? This is the next thing on the list. So we're doing open houses. The showings start Friday, and we're doing open houses. I'm going to go to Kroger, and I'm going to buy a $45 flower arrangement, and I'm going to take it and ring the doorbell on my crutches, and I'm going to hand them the flower arrangement. Just say, hey, I thought this would be a nice way to sort of spruce things up a little bit for this weekend. What do you think they're going to think then? We made a great choice. And that's what you want to do. It's like, maybe this is a bad analogy, but like in volleyball, you can slam it or you can really send it home. And you just really want to send it home. That they've made a good choice. So that's the thing. You can, really. I'm sure they have bouquets or whatever you call those things, flowers, that are cheaper than that. But in today's world where we're doing a lot of the double open how and launching stuff on weekends, how inexpensive yet unexpected would it be for you to show up and bring flowers? They can also help you if things don't work out. Well, they like, well, Pam sure did try. I mean, she did everything. She was here, helped us stage the house. She helped move some stuff. She took a load to the dump. She brought us the flowers. It's not her fault. Market must suck, because what happens in a lot of cases when things don't work out? If you haven't been, if they have a sneaking suspicion that you haven't done what you're supposed to do, what do they think? Whose fault is it?
Yours.
Your fault. And how fun is that? That ain't no fun. That is no fun. All right, help with light yard work. We heard that one. That could be something. And again, you don't have to do all these things, but if you're capable and have a little bit of time and willing to do it, then maybe it's something to do. Here's one. Introduce yourself to the neighbors. I try to meet the houses on both sides. I try to go and meet those people for a number of reasons. One, I just say, hey, I just wanted to meet you face to face. You're probably going to see me around here, see my truck, whatever. I didn't want you to be alarmed. And then it's also just good to get to know those people. If you have a good relationship with them and they're sort of on board with the sale, maybe they'll mow their grass a little bit to help you out. Because how many times have you ever had, like, we had a house one time, the neighbor, the biggest feedback we got is the neighbor kept coming outside naked when people would come look at the house. So I'm glad I didn't meet that guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know what I could have done about that. But maybe, you get feedback sometimes of, gee, the other people, does their yard always look like this? Whatever. But I think it's never going to hurt to meet those people. Maybe they're thinking about buying or selling a house. Pop by after the sale. Again, when's the last time you saw your realtor? Once we got the contract, we never saw him again. And so be there between closing and between the contract and settlement, and of course beyond that too. Nothing wrong with going and seeing, like if you're the listing agent and another agent represents the buyers, nothing wrong with going to see the agent. You can go and see the new owners of the house that you sold. You go up and ring the doorbell and just say, hey, I just want to check on you. I saw a lot of houses in the neighborhood, pretty familiar with things in this area. I just wonder if there's anything, if I could be a resource for you. And then I always ask about the other agent. I'm like, well, have you seen, how's Joe doing? And if they say, well, yeah, Joe was here yesterday, he brought us pizzas and cake, and he brought this stone, we put it in the garden. Well, then you're dealing with somebody who's really good, and then it's not really, you don't really have a lot of chance of picking up a new client that way. But if they're like, God, Joe, man, I don't know what happened to him. Is he still in the business? Then you may have an opportunity to pick up a new client and help somebody. Obviously, calls, notes, and pop buys. They are unexpected and they're well received, so good things. Host and organize a housewarming party, we talked about that. Refer reputable vendors. You know, this is something that I think we all should do, is really try to keep an ear out for people that work in and around homes that are good, fair, honest, punctual, whatever else, because that can be a huge resource for your clients. So, enough said about that. Tidy up. So, like, have you ever gone to do an open house and there's just the seller just didn't get it quite right? Like, and sometimes it's extreme. Sometimes they haven't flushed the toilets, the beds aren't made, whatever else. You know, don't be afraid to get it done. Like, I don't do a ton of open houses at this stage of my career, but when I do, I'm very particular about the house looking its best. So I was doing one this fall, and I get there, and I don't know whether, you know, because these people are really on top of things, but it looks like they had not done anything with leaves in the driveway in the last 6 months. And I think it was just maybe the wind was blowing or whatever. It says acorns and leaves everywhere. So I called my wife, who I'm very blessed to have an understanding wife. I'm like, can you bring the blower over here? And she brought the blower over there, and I blew the damn leaves and the acorns and whatever and made it. It just doesn't look right, you know? Just as if the beds weren't made up and the lights weren't on or whatever else. I'm not saying when you go to the open house, you need to add a deck or a floor to it. But you know, you just gotta do those things. And I guess you gotta draw a line. Be careful not to, you know, I had one person come in to do an open house in my house, and they brought, at one of my listings, and they brought all these scented candles and whatever, and the people got home, they're like, what, the place smells like a French whorehouse, and what the hell's going on? So you need to be careful about that, but you know, use your good judgment, but don't, you know, if you're walking into the house and there's a piece of trash under the bushes, pick the damn piece of trash up, you know? If there's weeds coming up in the cracks in the sidewalk and you got a few minutes, just pick the damn weeds and throw them behind the other bushes. You know, just little stuff like that makes a big difference. So, a couple other things here, and we'll be about done. We can talk a little bit about these. So I wrote down, this is unfortunately very much an unexpected extra. Punctuality. Are realtors usually on time? No. Are people usually on time? And what does it communicate to the other person when you're not on time? What does it communicate to them?
They don't matter as much as you do.
I don't value your time.
Right.
And is that a slap in the face if you're a service provider? If I don't value you, then how good of a service provider can I be? So punctuality is ultra important. And then I think professionalism. Today is a bad day, but please excuse the fact that I do have a little bit of a situation. I wore long pants yesterday and it felt like my knee was in some kind of a vice because it was like putting the squeeze on my knee. But professionalism. I think people don't expect you to be looking professional. You've heard me say this a million times. Sometimes, well, you really don't usually listen. So, especially if you're younger, and again, I'm going to be my soapbox, but if you're younger, people think of you as you don't know what the hell you're doing. You don't know, you know, you're just, you know, like, especially like these millennials, people, you know, older people don't respect that or whatever. So what do they think if we'll just pick on Jake because he knows that I love him. Let's just say that Jake was wearing a nice blazer, pressed pants, nice shirt, and a tie. What do they now think about Jake?
Professional.
He's different.
This is a question I would love to ask you about. So, because I'm unique in that I have a 15 to 20 year period a long time ago where I was full-time in real estate, a 25 to 30 year period where I wasn't, and now I'm doing it again, and there are some dramatic differences.
Yeah.
And one of them is back those many decades ago, I hate to say it,
It's okay.
I went to work in a suit and tie. It was just the way the business was done, and
Sure.
it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. Is that acceptable?
Well, I mean, I am a contrarian in many things, especially in real estate, because I've seen it. I mean, you've been around it longer than me, but I think 28 years gives me, you know, I've got enough, you know, stripes on my shoulder to comment. And so again, Jake, what do I say? If everybody in real estate's doing something, what am I doing? Opposite. So as the trend has become casualization, it's embarrassing to me to see what people wear. I mean, I would be dressed up for most, and what most realtors wear. And again, I apologize for today, because I mean, you know me, I usually don't dress like this. So people are passing judgment on you. They're looking at you. You're putting social media posts. You're doing these unexpected extras. People are watching. And what are they seeing? So the word prejudice, what do we think of when we hear prejudice today? Think of race, okay? And that's part of it. But prejudice means prejudge. And that's how humans, their minds work. Animals work that way. You know, if, like, when my dog, who has been sprayed by a skunk, now sees a skunk, what does she assume? I'm going to get, every skunk is going to spray me. So she's prejudiced against, will every skunk spray her? I don't know enough about skunks to know that, but she thinks every skunk, so if she sees a skunk, she's gone, right? For some reason, she doesn't like the trash man. So when she sees any trash man, because we've had several different trash companies, she's going to go and bark, and probably, if she could get off of her little collar thing that keeps her in the yard, she would go kill the trash man.
She doesn't like people carrying pizzas, Deane. I have noticed.
Oh, that's
that.
Lucy. Yeah, that's right. She just doesn't like you. But so that's prejudice, prejudging. We try to put things in categories. So if I see somebody who doesn't look very professional, I'm assuming, and not everyone, but people are making assumptions about how you dress, how you look, how you talk, everything about you, your appearance of your vehicle, and beyond. You're just trying to sort it out based on your experiences, trying to get a little intel on who you're dealing with. So my thing is, you know, if you're going to go, if you know you're dealing with like super redneck, tobacco chewing dude, and you're going out and walking land, you don't want to be wearing a tuxedo to do that. That would be stupid. I do think professionalism conveys a tone of seriousness, where casualness conveys less than seriousness. So, especially, real estate is a business where having a little gray hair can help you. And I see one on your head. I've got a few. Russ doesn't have any. Pam, of course, has none.
And never will.
So, and it's a, you know, so having some years or being a little long in the tooth can be good in real estate. So you may be able, as a man in your age group, you may be able to get away with being less professional because they're going to assume wisdom and knowledge based on age.
And then I start talking and blow.
And then boom, they realize immediately. Jake is how old?
24.
So they know he's an idiot, right? I mean, they're assuming instantly, millennial, you know, he's off the chain. How old are you?
20.
Even worse, right? So how do you overcome that? And I've used this example, some of you have heard this. So have you ever been to the doctor? Have you ever seen a doctor that's not your regular doctor? Like you get, oh, well, your doctor sends you got to go see the specialist, and you go to the specialist, and you're sitting there, and you wait, and you go in the room, and like, they come in. Well, do you ever ask them for like their credentials or anything? Why not?
Because they got their coat on, and they look like they know what they're doing.
Right.
Although you raise a good point, and maybe you guys will experience it more. When I go to a new doctor and they look like Doogie Howser, for a minute I want to check to make sure they're graduated, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Because that's just part of being old, because you think everybody's a kid and you think they're stupid. Which, back to the same point. So, at least though, if somebody comes in and they have a stethoscope and they have the lab coat and it says doctor something on the thing, and you know, maybe they have a diploma on the wall, or the nurse seems to recognize who they are, or whatever, then you're like, all right, well, you drop them, and you just drop them, right? Okay, but imagine if I don't know John, or you don't know me, and you're at the doctor, and you've been referred to the proctologist, and it's Hicks Proctology, and he comes in there and he's like, all right, let's go ahead and get it on. So I'll just slip the old glove on, you know, you want lube or you want me to just go in there? You're gonna be like, wait a minute, dude, are you, I see the key ring, you look more like a logger than a doctor. You see where I'm going with this? So that's, the expectation is, people just, in today's world, you don't know. I mean, everybody's working from home and they're doing whatever. Yet, do you want the norm or do you want somebody who's exceptional? And Mike Ferry used to say, people would say, well, what about when I'm new? He would say, if you walk, act, talk, sound, behave, dress, and think like a powerful salesperson, the world will perceive you as that. That's prejudice, is what that comes out to be, but not what we normally think of prejudice. That's just how the world works. So if you look, act, talk, walk, sound, behave, and the whole thing like a professional real estate agent, what do you think people are going to think of you? That's what they're going to think. So there you go. So things like punctuality, professionalism, professional dress, whether you're driving a Rolls Royce or whether you're driving a Hyundai, it doesn't really matter, but you can clean up what you got. So I use that a lot, but I think it's very valuable. Okay, anything we need to add with our unexpected extras? What are other unexpected extras that you've done, or if you have a good story to share, or we just want to end it with this?
Well, I thought of one thing, because I've known so many real estate agents for so long. What we tend to do as real estate agents, if we have a listing or especially have a contract, is if everything's quiet, we just leave it alone.
Right, easy.
I would think one of the things that would be good for us to do would be to call when nothing is due and nothing is going wrong and nothing needs attention, and just say, hi, how are things going?
Yeah.
That would be unexpected.
That's an unexpected extra, and a good one, a damn good one. I love it. What's an unexpected extra that you've done for someone, Pam? I know you do it every day. You brought us
You
tools.
said a lot of them, but I've done mulch and staged and cleaned up and delivered food.
Yard work.
Yeah. When I take people out, I always have food and drinks in the car. I like the
Alcoholic
nipples
beverages
well, when I took my pastor and his wife, I didn't mean to, but the wife loved LaCroix, and I thought that's what I grabbed, and
Would you have seltzers or something?
it was like a natty light, and my pastor was in the back seat, and I said, I think it's a LaCroix in there for Joe, and I can hear him digging, and he's like, well, that's okay, she likes that.
She loves natty light.
Yeah.
Well, when I got home and put everything back in their fridge, I was like,
She had 6
no,
natty lights.
it's a natty light.
She sat back and didn't say a word, drank 6 natty lights.
Yeah, so I texted him and I said, I'm so sorry, I don't normally pack beer. I said, don't even drink natty light. And he said,
Sure.
we laughed about it. He goes, I wish I could have somehow opened it, dumped it out for you to find the empty can. But,
That's funny.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I had it. This isn't for anybody else but me, but I used to drink Diet Coke, and so I was running late. This was, I don't know, it's a couple months ago. Grabbed a Diet Coke out of the refrigerator, and I was driving to work. I was talking on the phone, whatever, and I opened it, took a swig. I'm like, whoa! It was a Coors Light. The can is silver. I just didn't really look at it too good. Because there's a big difference in taste, especially at like 8 in the morning, between a good old-fashioned Sud and a Diet Coke. See if I can think of one good one to close. Oh, this is a really good one. So, I had a listing. I was representing a buyer on a sale in Ash Creek, and it was a drive-it home. Drive-it is like a synthetic stucco kind of thing, and there's been some issues over time with how the drive-it was installed that could create moisture. Basically, if they don't allow it to ventilate, then moisture gets behind it, trapped in the wall, and eventually, what that's going to do to the framing material is going to rot everything out, and it's just a bad situation. So, the home inspector had indicated that he believed that there was moisture in inside the wall. He had a moisture meter thing. He did not, I mean, some inspectors just bash a hole in the wall, which is, it's supposed to be a visual inspection. So we said, we've got significant reason to believe that there's moisture in this drive. It could have been installed improperly, and this could cause some serious problems down the line. And I said, we'll either hire a drive-it contractor to come do it, or you can hire a drive-it contractor to come do it. Maybe the people that installed it initially would come and evaluate it. So, but Deane needs to be there when it's opened up. Deane needs to be there, because I wanted to see for myself what was going on. And again, this is not like, I don't need to be there if they're looking at the computer board on the HVAC, because I don't know what that is. But I think I know moisture when I see it, right? So they're supposed to be there at 10 o'clock. So I go out there, have my suit on, get there, dude's standing up there, and he's got like what's the thing like you do concrete with or whatever, some kind of a lathe, and he's like lathing it back up. I'm like, what's the story? He goes, oh, it was no problem. I'm like, didn't they tell you that I was supposed to be here? He goes, yeah, but I got here early, I just wanted to get it done, and since there's no problem, there's no problem. I said, open that thing back up. He goes, no way. He goes, I've already patched it back up. So I just kicked it in right where it was, and I stuck my hand in there and I grabbed the insulation. It was like grabbing a wet sponge.
Oh my goodness.
And so I guess I could have backfired. Like, I guess I could have had to pay to have the hole in the thing, but I got up on the roof and did it. Now, can everybody get up on the roof? That's not safe and whatever else, but you got to be willing to go the extra mile for your people. And imagine had I not done that. That would have been a huge.
And who would have got the blame if you hadn't done that and it showed up?
Yeah.
Well, in that company.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's terrible thing, and that's an extreme example. So I guess the bottom line is, I think if you can have the attitude of like what David Saunders says, what would you do for a friend? How would you handle this if this was your best friend's deal? And and sometimes maybe we even take our friends for granted. We maybe don't give them. Maybe sometimes we do more for people we don't know than we do, which is not right. But what would you do for a friend, for a real trusted friend? And how would you want to be treated through the transaction? And then just constantly be thinking of ways that you can, if you don't have any money, then don't make it about money. Make it about just service and being there. How much does a phone call cost? How much does helping them move a couple boxes cost? Everybody would I'd like a trip to Paris if I sell my house, but that's not possible for everybody. So anyway, I hope that is good for you and picked up a few tips. So it's a wrap. Have a wonderful day. Yay! Jake got abused again. Every time he comes, he just keeps coming back. Whip